Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Neese. I am on my last week of maternity leave, so the next two lectures are going to be delivered to you through this. With Miss Denson gone, I wasn't sure who my sub would be, so this is how I am making sure that you are still doing what you should be doing, no matter who is in the room. So today, you should be on page 20 of your interactive notebook. The title for this set of notes is the metric system. Now, I hope it's kind of been explained to you that in your interactive notebook, the notes always go on the left-hand side of the page, and all of our activities go on the right-hand side of the page. So your notes need to stay on the left-hand side. Do not write onto the right-hand side of your page, okay? For the metric system, if you're unfamiliar with this, this is how scientists measure everything that they would ever want to do. They will measure in liters, meters, and grams. Now, to make the system a little bit more user-friendly, they have a lot of prefixes that you can put in front of these main units, the liter, meter, gram, in order to make the numbers a lot easier to work with. Now, you might ask why we don't use pounds, we don't use inches, we don't use yards. That's an American thing. If we want to talk to scientists in, I don't know, England, or if we wanted to talk to somebody in Japan, scientists can talk to each other and understand each other because we use this system. If we tried to talk to somebody in Japan, they would have no idea probably what an inch is. But if I can talk to them and say we have 8 centimeters of whatever it is, then that's translatable. That they understand. So it's a way that scientists all around the world can talk to each other in the same language, the same kind of metric language. For this, what I want you to do is kind of start at the top of your page. The very first and kind of the biggest unit that, or prefix that we are going to use is kilo. Now I am going to kind of step this down the page so that we can kind of get it in a stair-step manner. That will help you with going from, say, a deciliter to a kiloliter when the time comes to do conversions, which is your goal for using these. So kilo is your first one. This one a lot of times is abbreviated with just a K. If you wanted to put it in front of one of our basic units, say grams, which eventually I will get to, you would put something like kg, and this would be kilograms, meaning you have 1,000 grams, because kilo is one of our root words, so you should be recognizable. The next step down is the prefix hecto. This is in the 100th place. Not one of our root words because it doesn't really break down into anything else, but it is abbreviated with an H. Next step down, which would be in kind of the tens area, that is deca. Now there's something for this one that you have to be aware of. There is another D in our metric system, so we are going to have to make sure that we know the difference between a deca and the other one. With deca, you abbreviate it with a DA. Now this next spot down the line is where all your kind of basic units go, and they can be, for example, that G that I've already used. They could be a liter or they could be a meter, so M. Your G stands for grams, your M stands for meters, and then your L stands for liters. All of these measure specific things. For grams, you're talking about mass. For meters, length, and liters, you're talking about a volume. Now, for my screen that I'm using to do this, I am out of room, so I'm going to go to the next page. You guys just keep going down kind of that stair-step ladder because I'm just out of room on my sheet. The next one, after kind of your meter, liters, I'm just going to redraw my little box so you know kind of where I'm at with your meter, liter, and gram. The next step down in your like 10th place is one of our other roots that I'm having you guys work with, and that is deci. Deci is the one that has just the D as your abbreviation. Deci is in the 10th place, so if I had a decimeter, I have a 10th of a meter. So it's point something. Next one you should recognize because if you've ever used a ruler, then this one is there, and that is centi. otherwise abbreviated with a C. So a centimeter. Centi means 100th of a meter or 100th of a liter, something along those lines. So it'd be like 0.01. Then our very last one that we will be using in class is the teeny tiny one, and that is milli. That is abbreviated with another M. So one thing I do want you to recognize, if there is just one M, if you just have this means meter. If I put this in front of it, and it's a double M, then I have what is going to be a millimeter. So don't get confused. If it's just a single M, it stands for your base unit of meter, not the milli. That's a prefix. Prefixes always go on the very front of something, so it has to double up. None of these around outside of the box will ever be by themselves. You won't see something with just the D or the C or the DA or the K. They always have to be with one of those base units, the meter, the liter, or the gram. Now with these, when you are doing conversions, and say I gave you 1,000 milligrams, and I wanted to know how many grams that was going to be. This is really, really easy. You don't have to do a whole heck of a lot of work to this. What you have to do is just know your metric system, and I'll give you a really easy way to kind of remember it. And then whichever way you move on the metric system, however many spots you move on the metric system, that's how many spots you move your decimal. So I can go ahead and show you what your answer will be. The decimal, whenever there isn't one, is always at the very back of a number. Now I want to know how many grams are in it. With my metric system, which is kilo, hecto, deca, this is your base units, so this could be either that gram, the liter, or the meter, deci, centi, or milli. Now with my starting, I'm starting at a milligram, so I'm using this base unit, but I'm starting all the way down here on my metric system. I actually want to go to my full base unit, so I want to move up to this spot. That's where I want to go. Now, using the metric system, it's really easy to change your number. To go from milli up to grams, to milligrams, the teeny tiny, up to the base unit of grams, all you have to do is go 3 spots to the left. So I move my decimal spot 3 spots to the left, and my decimal point will now sit right there. So 1,000 milligrams is equal to just 1 gram. And that's kind of how easy it is. That's how you can use the metric system. Now, every single science teacher that you will ever come across can teach you the easy smeegy saying in order to remember this. This is what I was taught when I was in probably 6th, 7th grade, and I've remembered it ever since, and it helps me remember my metric system. The saying is, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. That's the saying. If you go back and look through all of this, there's your K for kilo, your H for hecto. The died goes with deca, and remember this is your DA, not just the D. This stands for your base units, your B. So this right here is going to stand for that grams, meters, or liters. This D stands for your deci, C for centi, and M for milli. So this is the saying that every single science teacher that I have ever met, that I have ever been around, teaches their students in order to remember the metric system. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, and it'll help you remember the order of the metric system prefixes. Now, do another example. If I wanted to do 1 hectoliter, and I want you to turn that into deciliters, what would you have to do to fill it in? If you remember your saying, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk, then it's very easy to do. I am starting at hectoliter, so I'm starting at my H, so it means I'm right here, and I want to go to deciliter. Now remember, your deciliter is this D, not the first D that you come to. That is deca. So that is actually DA. I had a lot of kids in the past where they will write an A along with the D in order to make sure that they remember which one is which. Now remember, you just got to move your decimal. So my decimal is sitting right there back behind my number 1, and I want to go from hecto to deci. I go 1, 2, 3 spots to the right. So that means I move my decimal spot 3 spots to the right. 1, 2, 3. Then whenever you do something like that, you just put in zeros. So 1 hectoliter is equal to 1,000 deciliters. Metric system is really, really easy to work with. I am going to give you several more problems to try. The sub will have the answers, and you guys will work through these on the board. So try your best, try to figure it out. Tomorrow you will have an assignment to go with this that you will need to practice these examples or these problems. So a third problem that I want you to do is I want you to take 160 centimeters and I want you to turn it into something in millimeters. For your next one, I want you to take 14 centimeters. I guess I like centimeters right there. And I want you to turn it into the base unit of meters. For the next example, I want you to take 109 decagrams. So that's your DA, and then you got your grams, so decagram. And I want you to turn it into a kilogram. For the last one under this, I want you to take 250 meters and turn it into kilometers. Okay, so try these. You'll work through these on the board with the sub. Remember, whichever way you move on your metric system, that's how many spots you move your decimal and the direction that you move your decimal. Do not make these harder than they have to be. Now for an added challenge, something else I want you to try once you have done these is I want you to compare two numbers. I want you to compare two different numbers and then kind of treat them like you're doing a math problem where you're going to tell me if it's greater than, less than, or equal to, depending on what the relationship is between the two numbers. I only have two examples for this. The first one is 56 centimeters, and I want you to compare that to 6 meters. Which number is bigger, smaller, is it equal to, depending on how you are looking at it. The second one I want you to try is 7 grams, and I want you to see how it compares to 698 milligrams. See what is the same, what is greater than, less than, whichever the one may be. That concludes this lecture. You are going to practice this for the rest of class and tomorrow, so you'll have an assignment that goes with this, and then you will have one more lecture like this later in the week until I return next Monday.